comes to that. But, I mean, obviously, big shock here through the minicamp. All the praise in the whole wide world when it comes to Christian Parker and whether Shotty talking about walking by the rooms, and if it's the defensive line in the linebacker room, the secondary room, and they're constantly yelling and screaming out all the checks and what they're doing. And communication has been just such the number one ample thing that's been projected throughout this process here. And even the little signs from the sidelines that we got, from him on the walkie-talkie, over communicate, and just hearing like all that from people, like how much the terminology, well, not terminology, but the communication is important, how they're getting after it that way. I think obviously it's exciting for us just because of, and it's not just last year. Now, this isn't just an Eberflus thing. I think we could talk about better part for 3 years, but we would just see times where pre-snap, pointing, wait, hold on, stop, or
Yeah.
post play, looking back at the other person, like what's going on. Communication, I think, is something that's been problematic for the Cowboys defense for multiple years. And them attacking it this way, this early, and hearing that from all fronts is pretty exciting.
Well, they brought in the high IQ DC, right? And then they brought in a bunch of
Mhm.
high IQ players. They were extremely picky with what they did at linebacker, almost to a fault, as we talked about a bunch, during the free agency
Mhm.
period of the first wave. And there's a reason why they were picky. They want guys that know what the heck is going on and don't need to be corrected 100 times over. You make a mistake, that's fine. Go fix it. Don't make that mistake again. And so I
Right.
think that that's going to be a common theme you're going to see here. Early on in the season, you're probably going to see some mistakes. By the end of the season, I think you're going to see a very buttoned up defense that is probably a playoff caliber defense in my guesstimation. That might be an overstatement. Probably get laughed at for that one, but I think we're well on our way with some of the bodies they brought in and the plans they have in place from what we know as of today. I think they're well on their way to being capable by the end of the season of being something that you can count on in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, well, and then just kind of sticking with where that's at, and the chirping when they're going against each other, offensive defense, and the team drills, and it's Ryan Flournoy and Parker telling them, might as well go ahead and get Butter Aubrey out here because y'all ain't getting nowhere, y'all ain't
Yeah,
getting a
right.
touchdown here, and just let it be known, the aura, whatever you want to call it, but I mean, he's not like, there's a particular way that he wants to go about it, and it's loud, and it's, you want to say swag, aura, however you want to kind of term it. It's what it is, and he's bringing that to the table. I shot even mentioned that once again during that, and just it's about the confidence this year in the defense versus last year at this time. Um, yeah, Shotty had a couple moments there to say some things versus the defense right now versus this time last year.
Any chance
Don't
he
think he's going to
gets.
miss a shot. I don't think he's going to miss. I don't think he's going to miss an old shot at old Eberflus.
Yeah. Hey, Joseph, that's a great point. I love that. We talked about that a little earlier in the spaces. Revel, he's a guy that I would not sleep on. And we actually have a question here from one of the fans here. I don't know how to say the name, but it's Pfizer So's one at Pfizer So's one on Twitter. It says, I
Okay.
believe that Bland and Durant are the starting cornerbacks against the Giants. Who do you think will be CB3, Revel, or Carson? I'm going to tie that in also to shout out Sergeant Sue. He had a similar question about who's going to stand out from the cornerback room. I think it's going to be Revel. That's my pick, and I actually think Revel is going to be the starter opposite of Bland. I think that Durant will still get significant playing time. He might be, nickel guy at times. You sub these guys in and out depending on situation, but I think snap number one, play number one, Cowboys defense, I think it's going to be Bland and Revel. And you got to remember, Revel came in last year, and he was a guy who came off of a major injury, right? He's a rookie coming in halfway through the season. Guys are already flying all over the place, warmed up, ready to go, right? And Revel's coming in cold, right? Practicing all that, but his first live action in the NFL. And so it takes time to ramp up, right, and be a pro. And he's coming through halfway through the season, expected to get there, quickly, and it just wasn't realistic. Had to play with the brace on his knee, so you can't take a ton from what you saw of him last year and really set your expectations for him this year. I think you got to go back to see what you saw in college and just know that he's got half a year of experience as a pro, and maybe that helps him get up to a quicker start in 2026. But I've got a lot of high hopes for this guy. Cannot wait to see him come training camp.
Yeah, I think some of the things we're talking about. He's broke up some passes here during the mini camp, and had opportunity to sit down and talk a little bit, and said the confidence is back for him, and from his lips to God's ears, said he's ready to go out here and become the best cornerback in the league. Sign me up for that, right? I mean, look, the the DC you brought in here, right? That's his calling card, right? That's the secondary. He knows he did the work with Revel doing the drafting process. That's what he does, and that's who he is, and the Caleb Downs and all those things. So, yeah, I think I'm super, and he's another year removed away from that injury. I'm super excited for real. I think it is going to be Bland and Ravel out there starting, and then of course, the 4-2-5 with Downs doing that star position nickel. But I think we're going to see a lot of Durant. Shotty's went out of his way to mention him not once but twice in both pressers, the opening presser and the closing presser, and talks about his alpha mentality from a leadership standpoint and where it's at. So yeah, I think we see a lot of Durant as well in there too. Not to rule out Carson. Here's the thing about Kalen Carson, and I've mentioned it before. Possibly more than, I mean, realistically, I'm gonna say possibly. Really, he was your best cornerback last year when healthy, but when healthy. And that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of been the knock for him. When he in college, he was banged up. He got here and he shows moments. You see certain things from him, but he's kind of consistently also banged up through his first 2 years. So I'm not ruling Carson out, and he's got game. He's got things to his game, but he's got to stay healthy. Where Durant's being mentioned a couple of times of where it's at. So yeah, I would stack him if we were stacking him heading into this thing. I will go Durant Revel just because Bland in the foot right now and then I would go Carson then Bland right now because of the foot. Once he gets the clearance and everything's a go, and if he's as soon as once he hits the field in Oxnard, then I would completely flip that a little bit. And I would go Bland, Revel, Durant, and then Carson, and
Yeah,
then we'll see
and
what the rookies and others have.
here's the cool thing, dude, is you got at least three guys who I feel really confident in, and that includes, obviously Revel, assuming he's going to improve and all that. Putting a lot of chips in that basket or eggs in that basket. But you got three guys who you should feel pretty confident in. But then you've got the Carson, that's a question mark, but he showed some really good things. You got Josh Butler coming back,
Sure.
showed some really good things, but again, another guy that was injured. But you take your top three, right? You also have Caleb Downs, who's also going to be your nickel guy, star guy. Thompson going to be probably the same role in and out with Downs, swapping spots, sometimes deep safety, sometimes playing that star role kind of up closer. So you've got a secondary, probably five guys in the secondary that you should feel really good about. Whereas last year, I think you had a grand total of probably zero. Maybe you could have felt good about Bland, but he was hurt on and off. So who knows really with that one. But five guys, right, in the secondary, I feel really good about. And I'm excited to see how that goes. And you got, by the way, a DC who specializes in secondary play.
Right.
So let's top all that off with that one. So Robbie here asks, so I know I'm a homer each and every year, but I'll ask you too. Any chance we have a top 10 D? Robbie, I don't really go by the number rankings because in 2023, I think it was, or 2022, Dallas had a top 5 defense, but we all knew they couldn't stop the run. It was just the offense scored so much that they could just rush the passer all day. And so the ranking was a little bit weird. I'll say this. I don't know about top 10, top 15, top 20. I don't know about all that, but I'll say by the time we get to probably Thanksgiving, A, we'll know what we have, and B, what I think we'll have is a defense that can stand on its own two legs and not rely on one player to have to show up and have monster performances like we did for Micah, and they're not going to rely on the offense to go score 30, 35 points every single week. I think you'll have a defense that you can count on. So if your offense gets off to slow starts, maybe needs 3 drives to get going, I think the defense can probably give you that time by that point. Is at least my hope and my expectation for this team. What about you, Nix? What do you think?
The top 10 is probably a tall task. I mean, just coming from where it is, there's just so many moving pieces, right? I mean, there's so many, it's just so many, we're talking about upwards, we're talking about 8 new starters, completely new staff. It's going to take a little time to get into it, although you like the front and where it is. But I think, forget the numbers. I'm with you. Let's forget the numbers for a second. Top 10, top 15. Is there a chance to see a absolute 180 in this defense from where it was last year, no matter where those numbers kind of reside? Is it a noticeable, is it a tangible, like they can get a stop? And I ain't talking about just a field goal per se. I think they have opportunity to be very effective. I do think they have opportunity to do that. Now, does that mean their number would be like 17, 20, right? Possibly that would be their number, but does that mean they're not doing what they need to do for this team to be in the hunt for the playoffs? No. I think you could be in that. To me, if we get into like the numbers, just get the scoring down. Man, if this defense could just give up around that 21 to 23 points per game, I think we're going to cook in a lot of different ways. I think that gives us in the chance of an opportunity to go win 10 plus games if they're able to do that. And that's what I'm really looking forward.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, let's put this in terms of floor and ceiling, right? I think the floor of this defense is probably close. What was the ceiling of the defense last year, right? It was that 3 game stretch, Vegas, Eagles, and Chiefs,
Eagles,
right?
Chiefs, yeah. Mhm.
Right. I think the floor of this defense is probably somewhere around that. What those defenses weren't perfect. They gave some stuff up, but they got a couple of stops, right? I think that's probably
Mhm.
the starting point for this defense if I had to guess, based on what they've done in this offseason, the
Mhm.
personnel they've added, the draft they had with getting Caleb Downs. I mean, that's worth something right
Hey,
there.
there you go.
So
Yeah, 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 yeah,
gotta
yeah.
throw his name out there whenever I can. But I think that's probably the floor. And the ceiling, we don't know. We don't know. It's going to depend on the development of Revel, how he does, the development of Ezraku in a second year, Revel in a second year, the health of Bland and DMO. What does DMO look like? There's a lot of
Yeah.
factors that can go into this that really make you question what the ceiling. It could be very high, could be mediocre, but I have a very strong feeling this is going to be much better than what we saw last year. Right away, right out of the gate, I think it'll be much improved versus what we saw last year.
I think they're going to be more physical up front for sure. I think they're going to. I think what they did was, hey, we're going to stop the run, and we'll figure out how to tie that into stopping the pass as well. But you're not going. That's where they're kind of planting their stake in the ground to me and how they've operated. And we're shutting the run down. That's what we're going to do there, right? We're getting bigger. We're getting physical up front, and what we're going to play, and then it's into how we tie that to the back end. And there's a lot of moving pieces within that, as you just kind of mentioned and talked about. I mean, man, if we could just sit here and say, look, Bland's never going to have another injury again, serious, right? Where he's going to miss time with the foot. Um, Demo is through the Sean Lee arc. You know what? The rest of his career, he's going to be relatively healthy. Man, I think we all have a different feel conversation in general about this defense, but those are just those unknowns right now where we're just like, a little, come on, we'll walk through the door and be there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, DMO is an impactful player. I think he was on a
Sure.
trajectory to be a perennial All-Pro candidate. Maybe not every year, but from the very little that we saw of him, the plays he was making. You remember that one play where it was a tip pass off the edge? I think it was the Giants, right? Picked it off, went and scored a touchdown. He
Hmm.
had the game in the preseason where he made a couple really sick hits, in the A gap, B gap, and then he tore his ACL on the sideline on a weird tackle. It's like there was a lot of moments where I was like, "Holy crap!" Like this guy's flying everywhere, making plays left and right, and then injury happens. And so if
Right.
he can just, for the love of God, just stay healthy and even be 90%, 85% of what he was pre ACLs, I think we got an absolute baller on our hands here. And you pair that with what they
Yeah.
have now in the middle on the defensive line in front of him, and that's going to
Hmm.
allow these linebackers to really fly sideline to sideline. I'm super excited about that.
Yeah. I mean, and I think we kind of have a clearer vision as we've got to the OTs in the minicamp now. Yeah, I think week one, your starters and linebackers are going to be winners in Overshawn. I think that's the starters when we line up week one in New Jersey against the Giants.